stairs here.
Wow.
So once it hits the ceiling, I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah, so quite often in the lifespan of a fiddle leaf fig, which by the way, these are doing extremely well, you
Thank you.
probably have to at some point uh, cut them, like cut them right to the point where it's like the middle of the window, for example, and then it will sprout one or possibly two new stems from that cut point. And then from the thing that you cut off, you could also like cut off some of those lower leaves from the piece that you cut off, root that, and then stick that into soil, and then grow it somewhere else.
Okay, so can you tell me how to do that? Because I'm terrified. I don't want to kill them. They're my babies. And so my dad, he's a plant guy too, and he's like, you need to cut them, you need to cut them. But they're just so beautiful, and I'm worried that if I cut them, I will either, like, the part that I cut will just die. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've actually never propagated anything very well before.
Okay, so there's sort of like I would say two different ways you can do this effectively. The really safest way, but probably a bit more involved, is called air layering. Have you ever heard of that, air layering?
No.
So what happens is you get a little bit of sphagnum moss, which is a type of moss that people use as a grow. Like it's almost like soil, but it's a more stringy kind of spongy material. And what you do is you cut like a little notch halfway into the stem, and then wrap the sphagnum moss around that, and then wrap that with a piece of plastic. Then what happens is because of where you cut, a plant will naturally start to grow roots when it realizes that it has an injury, right? Then
Okay.
a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months even later, when the roots have grown from that cut point, then you cut it cleanly off and just replant that. This is the method that people use to propagate fiddle leaves, like in a commercial nursery anyway. Uh,
Really?
yeah, so they just keep cutting them off
Okay.
of bigger trees. So that's one way you
Okay,
could do
so
it.
you would say, like, well, where do you think I should cut it on this plant?
For that one, I would cut it like halfway to the length, like to the halfway height of the window.
Like, about here?
Yeah, I think right there would be good.
Okay, cool. So, and then where between the leaves do I cut
Uh,
it?
it doesn't really matter. But like
Like these ones.
yeah, like the lower leaves going upwards, you would need to remove like I don't know half of them because what happens is when you take a cutting, that cutting now no longer has ability to take up water because it has no roots, right?
Hmm.
But leaves, although they are the solar panels doing the photosynthesis, they are also the things that like cause the plant to lose water through transpiration. So in order to help with lessening the amount of transpiration, you have to remove a lot of those older leaves.
Right.
In fact, if you don't remove them and you
Okay.
just try and root it, then those lower leaves are going
They're
to
gonna
fall off
die.
anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
Okay, that makes sense.
two ways you could do it. And I would say the last thing to keep in mind is that, like, I understand that there's a very, deep connection that you see this plant in the way that it currently is, and very much kind of like in love with it, right? But if it's time to propagate, you have to accept that now your plant is going to kind of go through a big change where it's not going to look the same anymore. It's going to take on a new form, and you'll have to almost, in a way, learn to love it again, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not gonna be as tall.
It's not going to be as tall, but in another year or so, it will continue to grow and it'll probably get to the same height, in more time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said it's called dry
It's called air layering.
air layering. Okay, okay.
Yeah.